Namaste, everyone. Good evening. I take this opportunity on behalf of the Verandah Club to welcome author, yoga guru, and a very strong, very perfect yoga practitioner, Shailaja Menon Akka, live from Malaysia on her for the launch of her launch and review of her second book, Breathe, Bend, and Be. This is a second book. The first book being Yoga Shakti, which we have also reviewed. This is the second book. It's a wonderful read. It offers great value to modern day problems and offers a lot of scientific reasoning that goes behind the way we understand yoga. Today, however much yoga offers solutions to modern day problems like stress and fast life and things like that, yoga sadly has been reduced to mere postures and stretching and pranayama and things like that. Yoga is beyond that, and we look forward to Shailaja Menon Akka to enlighten us through this book, uh, through the next half an hour or 45 minutes on the importance of yoga and the significance which Bharat has given to the world. Welcome you, Akka. Happy to be
Namaste.
discussing this book.
Namaste. Thank you all. And, thank you, Jagannath ji and the Verandah Club for this wonderful opportunity to share my love and passion for yoga, which comes out in these talks and the books and everything else that I do, the classes.
Can I start off with some questions, Saka?
Sure.
How you have been a yoga practitioner for probably two decades or more, and the book I wanted to share this. The book is dedicated to the spiritual mentor of Shailaja, author Shailaja Menon, to the late Shri Padma Shri P.R. Krishna Kumar Warrior, whose faith and vision, she has quoted this, faith and vision in my path to share the ancient wisdom of yoga was far greater than anything I could conceive for myself. The energy and deep sense of purpose that exemplified his life continues to inspire and empower my life. Wonderful words, Saka. We miss him a lot today, and I'm sure you're also, all of us are missing him today badly. Can you share something about your yoga background and what inspired you to write the book, Akka?
Yeah, so I actually, like you correctly guessed, more than 2 decades. Actually, this is my 25th year as a yoga practitioner. I started in Coimbatore, which is my hometown. I grew up there. And after the birth of my first child, I actually came back to Coimbatore to spend some time with my parents. And I started off with integral yoga.
Okay.
And I did my first teacher training actually in, I think, 2020. And I was very influenced by Mataji Divyananda, who at that time was running the center there. So I think my grace has been meeting wonderful people who inspired me on the path.
She has also given a
Yes, she has.
author credit in the book.
Yeah, so I'm so grateful to all of my teachers, and I keep in touch with them and keep them as part of my life. So yeah, I got them all involved in this book as well.
Very nice.
So, when I came back to Malaysia, then I was lost without, a teacher for a while. And then I found my teacher here, Manoj Kaimal, who I have also quoted extensively in the book. And the beauty about what I liked about the way that he taught, his style called Manasa Yoga, is that he blended philosophy with the asana practice, which was something quite unique, like starting with the Yoga Sutras. All of that was embodied in the practice. And I was very fascinated with that because I think for me, always the approach was about the mind. Like I wanted to find ways and explore ways how yoga could help deal with stress and anxiety and all of that, which were things quite common and something that I was going through as well. So always my focus has been the mind. So if you see my books also, it's all a reflection of that. Like everybody has a certain path, right? Something calls you to the path. For some people, it's back pain. For some people, it's, something else. But for me, it was dealing with stress. So even today, everything I approach yoga always through that. And then I understood also that the path is really about the mind. And sometimes when you say yoga, people only think about standing on your head or standing on your hand or in your
Yes.
postures. But if you look at Ashtanga Yoga, which I have written about in this book, right? If you look at the higher aspects of yoga, it yama niyamas, and then deeper states of consciousness are all about, it's all about the mind. Yeah, it's about pratyahara, dharana, dhyana, samadhi. And in fact, I tell my students now that the underlying practice of all practices, whether it is pranayama practice, whether it is asana practice, the underlying practice is actually attention practice, working with our minds, training with our minds, building focus, building attention, because without that, concentration is a far cry. Without concentration, we can just, meditation is just a word we just all use.
Yes.
So it's so important to see how all of it comes up. Like today, meditation is so commonly used, right? There are apps that teach you meditation.
Yeah. Diamond doesn't.
But if you actually look at it through the lens of Ashtanga Yoga, as given in the Patanjali Yoga Sutras, it is the seventh limb. It's not just as easy as any layperson just going, closing your eyes, sitting and trying to focus. There is so much of thought and information that we have to have before we step into these things. And then if you look at the ancient gurus, they always say meditation is not even something that you can do. Meditation is a state that we receive. And what we can do is cultivate a mind state, a mindscape. Yeah, like how I start off with the example of a gardener. Yeah, how he has to pull out the weeds, then he has to plant some seeds, and then he has to water and nourish those seeds.
So you
Right?
create a fertile environment for it to.
Correct, correct. So unless that is done, simply we sit and close our eyes in one corner every day, it's meaningless. Like Dr. Ananda's quite hilarious. He says, he says, don't call it meditation. He says, say that you sit and close your eyes, and that is a good practice in itself, right? Sitting quietly for 20 minutes. But when we use the word meditation, when we use the word asana, when we use the word yoga, it is such a profound meaning. Yeah, and that meaning gets lost when we use it in everyday parlance.
So it is. I understand that it is as important as a seeker to have a good guru also.
Absolutely. I think that's
Yes.
the I think that is the biggest grace in your life.
Yes.
Like your parents, yeah, give birth to you and they nurture you to a certain state. But, I mean, for me, at least in my life, it's the people that I met, my teachers who have given me that strong sense of purpose. Whether it was Krishmar uncle, whether it was Mataji Divyananda, whether it was Manoj Kamal, whether it is Dr. Ananda, who also I have quoted extensively in the book, right? So all of them have nurtured that, desire to learn more, be a seeker, to explore more, right? And then, that knowledge, at some point, it becomes so overflowing that you need to express it out and, the books come out.
Fantastic. The theme of the book of this Breathe, Bend and Be, the book that you've written is exploring the 8 limbs of yoga for holistic harmony.
Correct.
So, what is the significance, Akka?
Yeah, so Ashtanga Yoga is in the second chapter of the Yoga Sutras. Actually, Maharishi Patanjali gives it to us people who are trying to ascend that ladder of yoga. Yes, so whether it's Sage Vyasa or Maharishi Patanjali, yoga is actually samadhi. It's all about that. But before we can get to samadhi, before we can get to dhyana, even meditation, right? There's so many other limbs, like they call the yamas and niyamas like adhikara yoga. Yeah, where we have to be fit to ascend those steps, right? So, but today, if you see, the most dominant limb is asana. And I always say it's not even asana, right? It's just stretching. Asana has been dumbed down to stretching. Yeah,
Yes.
so it is to give people that, well, my idea is after a reader reads the book, right, they will go away with a broader understanding of yoga, yeah, of Ashtanga yoga, that it is not just about stretching or strengthening the body or finding balance and coordination, all of which we will do, but it is so much more than that.
Correct.
And this gives a holistic perspective. Like when you talk about yamas and niyamas, yeah, they are like, like the foundational aspects of the person. Yeah, we have to have these core aspects. Like if you just take the first yama, say ahimsa, right? if you have to understand, like I have explored ahimsa there. So if you tell people what is ahimsa, usually the first thing is, oh, I'm vegetarian, so I'm ahimsa. Or I don't beat anybody, so I'm ahimsa. I don't go around kill
Mm.
anybody. I practice ahimsa. But I have gone in so much deeper and explored ahimsa. Yeah, so there is ahimsa in terms of manasika. Yeah, we can actually do ahimsa in our minds through our thoughts, right? And if we explore ourselves, we can actually see all of this, right? Sometimes somebody does something that, we don't like, and you can see that violence building up in our thoughts,
Mm, mm.
right? So the term ahimsa itself has been explored through so many ways. Then there is vachika, yeah, in terms of how we speak, right? So maybe we are not killing anybody or beating anybody, but we can be cruel in terms of the words that we use.
Yes, yes. Anger, emotions.
Correct. So, what I have tried to do is get people to expand their understanding of these concepts. Yeah,
Mm.
I have really gone in depth into all of this.
Yes, yes.
So, when you read, and it's not like a book that you just flip through and finish. Like, even if you just take one aspect, say ahimsa, right? Then we have to think about how can I bring that into my life, right? We have to be aware, right? So another one of the niyamas is this beautiful term called swadhyaya.
Mm,
Yeah, self-study.
mm,
So like in the traditional sense, it is study of the scriptures, which is very important. Like knowledge is important,
mm,
right? It gives us that ability to, to not just live off our own limited thoughts, right? But swadhyaya is also that constant minute to minute awareness of our own minds.
mm, mm,
Have that capacity to witness our own minds.
mm,
Yeah, and only when we are able to witness our thoughts, witness what all, goes on, our inner narrative, right? Then can we catch this ahimsa there? Can we catch when we are not speaking satya, right? We can see all of this going on in our minds, right? If we are just flowing, if you're not conscious, right? If you're simply flowing with our mind, flowing with our thoughts, then the whole world is at fault. We are perfect human beings. That's how we live, right? We're always blaming other people, nothing wrong with us. But we have to develop that capacity to see our own mind, see our own thoughts, see our inner narratives, be a witness. Yeah, so there's a beautiful term called Sakshi Bhava. Yeah, we have to have that attitude. So in yoga class, that's the first thing that we do.
mm, mm,
Actually take a step back and simply witness the mind.
mm.
Yeah, and that is a part of the Swadhyaya practice. Where is your mind? What is it caught up with? Right? Are you thinking about work? Are you, anxious about, some deadline? Right? Are you fearful about some outcome? Right? Are you worrying about some financial issue? We don't know ourselves. So yoga practice is all about that. It is an inward journey to
Mm.
connect to the core of ourselves, right? And like even the great gurus, including BK Iyengar, he says, it is from the known that we connect to the unknown,
Unknown. Correct.
right? So what is known? What is known about us is that we have a body, we have a breath, we have a mind with many thoughts, many emotions, and that is what we are seeking to understand. And by understanding that, by sinking deep into all of that, right, we will be led to the more unknown dimensions of our own self.
Amazing. I, for one, thoroughly enjoyed the book, Kaka. And it's been more a revelation for me than anything else on the wonderful aspects of yoga. I was, in fact, thinking yoga is more about stretching, meditation, pranayama, breathing, things like that. But the inner depths of it that you have dwelt with in the book is really amazing. And the structuring of the book is really awesome. It starts with the fundamentals of yoga and meditation in chapter one. Of course, it has a wonderful foreword, two forewords, in fact, wonderful foreword by R. Madhavan, who's the actor and president of the Film and Television Institute of India. He has a lot of words to say on yoga, the book, and the tracing it back to 5,000 years and how there have been studies based in Harvard, universities like Harvard, Stanford, Duke, and Oxford to show that how they show the countless benefits, measurable benefits of yoga and meditation and mindfulness that we all talk about. Mindfulness again is become a cliched word in present day. Uh, but it's all been there. It's just that people give it a term and then it catches on. And he also goes on to say that how it has come to yoga has shown scientific evidence in reversing neurodegeneration, which is very much relevant and much required for. And I agree with him on all the things. And what I like the most is breathe, bend, be breaks down the complex practice of yoga into a relatable and practical system. That's what is the success of the author in bringing out this book, is that you have made it relatable and it's very practical. It is not esoteric. It is not something which people can think yoga hai, ye to ye hai, wo hai. No, it's not like that. It's completely relatable, completely practicable, and it's relatable to your day-to-day practice of whatever you're doing. You can build on that. So that's how it has been. And the second chapter, like after the fundamentals, you dwell on the scientific foundations of yoga. I have enjoyed reading the book. I'd like to hear from you on the scientific, for our readers, scientific foundation. What are the scientific aspects of yoga which you'd like to highlight to our readers, please?
Yeah, so actually, I deliberately placed it as the second chapter because, as I was telling Jagannath ji, I always feel actually yoga doesn't need any evidence or anything, because just the fact that it has not just lasted all these years, but it's actually growing, right? I think it's such a phenomena,
Hmm.
right? It is a age-old practice,
Hmm.
timeless wisdom. But even today, it's not even stagnated. It is just growing, right? In
Hmm.
places that you never heard of, right? From Africa to the Middle East, right? It's just still growing, right? So that itself is an amazing, concept, and it's a testament of its effectiveness, right? But then the human mind is always doubting, right? Especially the modern human mind, I would say, is extremely doubting. So, which is why I made the effort to gather scientific data, right? Like we get convinced when we know that there is evidence backing all of this, and it's not just some mumbo jumbo, okay, yogis at some point said something, right? So it's all scientifically validated now about like they have this alternate nostril breathing, right, which is very famous nadi shodhana practice. Yeah, so where you breathe through your right nostril, breathe through your left nostril. And now they have found that it's actually true that your right nostril is connected to the left part of your brain, your left nostril is connected to the right part of your brain, right? And then you do, by doing this practice, you bring about harmony. Yeah,
Hmm.
because otherwise we're always dominant on one side. And by doing these practices, we bring about harmony in the brain, we bring about harmony in our nervous system. And simple things like my whole theme, like I said, I'm always about the mind. Yeah. So when dealing with stress, right? Simple things like if you exhale long, yeah, that activates your parasympathetic nervous system, and that brings on the relaxation response in the bodies. Like to me, all this, when I first heard about it, it was such a revelation. Yeah, it was like, wow, right? Everybody talks about stress. I mean, all doctors, excuse me, please, but very few people will actually tell you how to manage it.
Hmm.
So when I came across all this information by just changing your breathing, right?
Hmm.
Changing your breathing pattern, by doing long breathing, right? Just by doing, say, a 6 to 6 count, that is already so beneficial. You're taking in more oxygen, you're taking in more prana, right? You're detoxifying through a long exhalation, right? And then if you can push that a little bit more, if you can get your exhalation to be longer than your inhalation, then you're really beginning to work on relaxation. Yeah, that's causes vagus nerve stimulation. So all this was so amazing when I heard about it. And these are the things that keep me like I'm like, I have to share this with everybody, right? Because today, 90% of
Sorry to interrupt you, but as you are saying, I was trying it, and I so wish I was your student at Matt and Beyond.
Yeah, so there's a very famous functional medicine doctor called Dr. Mark Hyman, and he's also like a New York Times bestseller, many of his books. So even he says, right, like just by working with your breath, right, just doing all of that stuff helps us to relax, to de-stress, to come into that really, centered, grounded state. which we all struggle with. Yeah, because today he says this, that 90% of all diseases, yeah, their root cause is in stress.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yes.
And
The
where
negative energy doesn't go out. We keep
correct. The
accumulating it.
fact is,
Toxins.
again, like these are all the amazing things I learned when I stepped into yoga practice.
Hmm.
Your
Hmm.
mind, your body, your breath, your energy, they're all connected, right?
And it all the negative energy builds the toxins in the body, right?
Correct. So we don't even understand it, right? Modern science, everything is separate. Not just you have an orthopedic doctor, you will have somebody just for your wrist. Maybe in time you'll
Yeah,
have
yeah,
somebody
yeah.
for your thumb. So,
Micro specializations have
right.
come.
So we're so used to looking at everything as separated. Yeah, but actually everything is connected. And
Truly.
that connection begins with the body,
Hmm.
right? Our mind is not somewhere else. It is in our bodies, right? So that's what I've talked here in my book as well, about how the whole essence, right? When we feel fear, where do we feel it? We feel it in our gut, right? When we have some anxiety or worry, right? Where do we feel it? It's all in our body.
Hmm. Butterflies in the stomach. We say it's a gut,
Yes,
right? It's
yes, right? Hair standing on the
goosebumps.
right. So we have to understand that this mind and body is actually the same. In fact, some thinking now is it's not even mind and body. It is mind body. The mind is in the body. It's not
Hmm.
anywhere else. Which is why when we experience stress, when we experience anxiety, all of it is experienced in every cell in our bodies, right? And this also scientifically is verified, right? They say if you're chronically stressed, what happens? Your sympathetic nervous system goes on an overdrive, right? And then it releases all these harmful chemicals like cortisol, right? And all of that is affected. It goes into our bloodstream and it goes to every cell in our bodies.
Hmm.
So, if we understand all of this, we realize how important our mind is. How we have to be so aware of the environment of our mind. And the way to have our environment of a mind healthy is by the yamas and yamas.
Fantastic. Truly
Yeah.
amazing the way you explain. And I am spellbound at the way Maharishi Patanjali would have conceived all this 5,000 years, probably 5,000 years ago.
Yeah. And I have to say one more thing. So this huge thing now that everybody talks about, 90% of all diseases, is from stress and, mind body is connected, right? The medical community now says this. But if you see Swami Shivananda's book, which I've also written in the book, there's a quote there from Swami Shivananda.
Yes, yes.
Yeah. He says so clearly, if we can, get that quote and read it, that'll be real. He says so clearly that when you have bitterness, right, this is what happens in your body. So this mind body is not a new concept. It's not
Hmm.
something that's discovered today. Our ancient yogis knew all this so long ago.
Hmm. 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 There is
So
a wonderful quote by Einstein which you have taken. It's on Santosha, happiness, contentment. It's on page number 102, which I'd like to read out. A quote that beautifully illustrates the concept is that's how Santosha encourages us to break free from self-defeating cycle of measuring our innate self-worth against the strengths of others.
that's
So
what
the
we're always doing.
Yes, yes. In present day competitive world, we are doing that, and you have articulated it. I really like the way you articulated it. I'll read it out again. Santosha encourages us to break free from the self-defeating cycle of measuring our innate self-worth against the strengths of others, which naturally leaves us feeling inadequate and lacking. And then the quote by Albert Einstein: "Everybody is a genius, but if you judge a fish by its ability to climb a tree, it will live its whole life believing it is stupid." And it is so relevant for today's rat race that most of us are trapped in. And this is a quote worth its weight in gold. And so is your
Yeah, and
explanation on Santosha.
all the great gurus also say, right, what kills our joy is comparison,
Yes.
right? And it is so, to me, it is so meaningless because there are so many dimensions to life.
mm,
Right? On what? How can we compare one dimension of life to somebody else and then put ourselves down?
absolutely.
Right? This is, to me, modern health issues, right? Mental health is the big deal today.
Mm,
Right. And to me, the scriptures and all of these books, they carry such a wealth of information to deal with all this. If only we knew all this, then we can stand against the assault of our mind. It is our own mind that is tyrannical and, gives us these false narratives about how we are worthless, not good enough. Right. And we have to have the knowledge to give a
mm,
counter.
mm,
Right?
mm,
That's
mm,
the importance of knowledge and having awareness of all of this information.
mm.
Because when the mind goes off on its, downspin, right? Then we have to have some information to counter that and say, no, that's not correct.
There's also a very nice story that you have quoted from your probably your trek to Mount Kinabalu in East Malaysia in 2019.
Yeah.
It is so wonderful about the lessons of life, that how we have to enjoy the journey and not the destination itself.
Yeah. To me, our asana practice is life practice,
Hmm.
right? So our mat is actually our life. So asana gives us this beautiful opportunity to really look at our attitudes. We are always seeking endpoints,
Hmm.
right? And we're always measuring ourselves,
Hmm. Hmm.
right? Not everybody can touch their toes, in the first month or the second month or the third month, even, right? But then when we see the next person touching their toes, then we start beating ourselves up. Oh, you're useless, you're good for nothing, you're coming every day, see your body is so stiff, oh, yoga is not for me, right? There's
Hmm.
a whole negative narrative that goes on. Yeah,
Hmm.
so this is so, to me, asana practice on the mat is a great way to put in a different narrative.
Hmm.
Yeah, to say that this is not about endpoints, right? This is about the practice. It is about focusing on the process. Yeah,
Hmm.
and life is like that also. We keep waiting for these
I was
endpoints,
just thinking, it's
right? We
just
have to
like life.
do a
We need
fantastic
to
race, we have to build this house, we have to have this amount of money in the bank, we have to get this position, then we'll be happy. Right? And then our life is gone. That we might get that at 70. But when we look back at our life, what has been the quality of our life? Just waiting, 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 just being unhappy.
just
Right?
surviving.
Correct. So it's so important to cherish every moment. Yeah, it's like building a house, right? We have to put brick by brick. Things don't happen just overnight.
Hmm.
So we have to enjoy the process. So even in asana practice, that's what I keep telling my students. Just enjoy the practice. Never mind whether you get it or don't get it. Right? So in
Hmm.
fact, I have this big quote on my wall that says, focus on what you can do.
What you
Because
can.
the mind has a negative bias. Yeah, so I've written about this in my first book. It has
Yes.
a negativity bias. Again, all
Yoga
this
Shakti.
is science based. Yeah. So if 10 people say hello to you, but one person doesn't say hello to you, you will only, the whole day you
Focus
will
on that.
be thinking about the one person who didn't say hello to you. Right. And it's like, I think Dr. Ananda has this another quote which says, looking at the black dot on a white shirt. Right.
Oh.
The mind is like that. You fixate on the one thing that is not right. But if we understand, right, if we have the knowledge and we understand that this is the nature of the mind, then the next time we catch ourselves doing this, right, we have the ability to change that. We can consciously make ourselves. So in yoga, there's a solution for everything. So there's a beautiful term. Again, from the Yoga Sutras only. Everything I quote is from the Yoga Sutras.
Hmm.
Yeah, it's Pratipaksha Bhavana.
Hmm.
Right? So if you hate someone, you might not immediately say, I love the person. But we will be able to take a more expanded perspective of the situation and the person's action. So we can maybe that person didn't say hello to us. Maybe we can start making allowances, saying, oh, this person is terrible. He has such a big ego. He's so arrogant, right? That's how the mind is. But we
Hmm.
can say, maybe he was busy. Maybe he just didn't see us. Maybe he was caught up with something in his mind.
Correct.
We
Correct.
start making allowances.
Correct.
And that is the practice of that Pratipaksha Bhavana,
Hmm.
where we reverse that negative narrative.
Yes. Hmm.
And maybe it can't become instantly positive, but we can shift that narrative. by taking on more expanded view.
Correct.
Yeah, or as some
And
people.
focus on, and it helps being better productive also at some level.
Yeah, I mean, the less negative we are, all of this
More
is
always is.
ourselves only, right?
Correct.
It's never about anybody else, right?
True.
It's always about how we feel, right? It's the garden that we're trying to cultivate, right?
Fantastic.
We have to put in all of this knowledge. This knowledge all is like the fertilizer. So next time that weed of complaining and bitterness and all of that grows, right? We have some fertilizer or some good stuff to put in to shift that
Hmm.
narrative.
Awesome. Akka, I wanted to ask you, it's what is your favorite paragraph or chapter, and would you like to read it out to our authors?
Yeah.
Sorry,
So
to our viewers.
that I was searching for this quote by Swami Shivananda. Yeah. So
Hmm.
I just want to make my point about how all of this is not new, right? This whole mind body, that your mind is in your body,
Hmm.
mind and body are deeply connected. It's not something new. Though medical science is saying that today, this was always known. Yeah.
Hmm.
So in very famous book, yeah, Mind, Its Mysteries and Control, there is this paragraph that I have quoted in the book. Yeah,
Hmm.
it says the primary cause of, he was a medical doctor himself.
Hmm.
Yeah, he says the primary cause of diseases which afflict the body is bad thoughts. Yeah,
Hmm.
and whatever you hold in your mind will be produced in the physical body. Any ill feeling or bitterness towards another person will at once affect the body and produce some kind of disease in the body. Okay,
Hmm.
I'm going to stop here. There's a lot more, but
Hmm.
I'm
Hmm.
making the point, yeah, that all of this was known so long ago,
Brilliant.
that our mind and body is connected, that the state of our mind affects the state of our body, that the breath is the link between the body and the mind. I always say, why yoga, right? Everybody has a body, mind, breath, but
Hmm.
not many people know how to use it. What yoga gives you is the knowledge to use the tools of the breath and the body and the mind, right? Through knowledge, through philosophy, to elevate the mind
Hmm.
and to release suffering. Ultimately, what is all of this for? To release dukkha. Yeah. So there is, even in the Yoga
Correct.
Sutras, they say Sarvameva Dukkham Vivekinaha. The wise one knows that everything
Wise
is
one.
right. So all of these efforts are to elevate our mind, release suffering.
So brilliant.
Yeah. So another thing I wanted to read from the book
Hmm.
is talk about tapas. So like I said, yamas are five, niyamas are five, right? So that itself has taken a lot of the space of the book, but they're so interesting and so practical.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Hmm. Hmm.
Affect our day-to-day life, even in terms of reaching our goals.
Hmm.
If I say tapas, if somebody knows meaning of tapas, instantly they'll think, oh, it must be about doing 100 push-ups or, running for 2 hours, right? That is one kind of tapas. Yeah. So what I have done is expanded on tapas because this is so important. Yeah. The
Hmm.
practice of tapas serves as a transformative fire that burns all that is not an authentic part of ourselves, which in turn enables our inner light to shine brightly.
Hmm.
This is similar to how a sculptor chips away at a block of stone to reveal the inherent perfection within the rock. It echoes the sentiment expressed by the renowned Italian sculptor Michelangelo, who once said, I saw the angel in the marble and carved until I set him free. Yeah. So we all have this vision for ourselves. We all have these goals for ourselves. And then we don't reach it.
Hmm.
Struggle. And why is it that we don't reach it? I'm
Hmm.
going to explain in this book. Yeah. When we take an objective look at our lives, we will realize that we are constantly operating under the influence of deeply ingrained habitual patterns.
Hmm.
Yeah. This is the key. Yeah. What we call samskaras. Yeah. These patterns exert powerful and unyielding grip on our actions. Okay, I'll just give one example. We might repeatedly tell ourselves we are going to give up sugar.
Yes.
But when someone offers us a sweet, it becomes exceedingly challenging to decline. Okay, so like that, there are many examples. I'm not going into it. So This is why tapas is important. There are aspects of our lives which we encounter obstacles and feel stagnant, right? We have these goals, we are not reaching them, right? They may manifest as, it could be anything: prolonged struggles to reach our desired weight, achieve fitness goals, master, a challenging yoga stand. When we don't achieve it, such persistent struggles lead to feelings of restlessness, discontent, even depression, right? A lot of mental illness comes from that, right? We feel lonely, we feel
Mm.
anxious, right? All of this because we're not where we are supposed to be, right? We have this vision of ourselves, but we're not there. So, in order to realize the aspirations we have set for ourselves in any area of life, right? Tapas becomes essential, right? Tapas is what helps us stand against these ingrained samskaras, right? We want to wake up early in the morning, our samskara is to sleep in late. We want to get up and exercise, our samskara is to off the alarm and go back to sleep.
Snooze.
But we have to recognize it. We have to recognize that these are the patterns that keep us from achieving our highest self.
Correct.
And this tapas is what is required to stand up to our patterns. So tapas is also doing 100 push-ups, but on a much deeper level, on a more challenging level, it is standing up against our samskaras that drag us down, that stand between us and our goals. Okay, the rest of it, read my book.
No, remarkable, remarkable, and I thoroughly thoroughly enjoyed the book, and I request all our readers, all our viewers and readers at the Veranda Club to buy this book. And by the way, Akka, if somebody wants to buy this book in India, I think it's available on Amazon. Any other sites available in India and abroad?
As
Please
of
let us.
now, I only know of Amazon India.
Okay. Abroad?
They are just in the process. I've just signed
Okay.
a contract and it's just in the process of being available abroad.
Okay. I think all of us should read this book and practice it to understand the nuances of the Yoga Sutra that was propounded by Maharishi Patanjali several thousand years ago and beautifully brought out by Yoga Guru and author Shailaja Menon. It's always a delight and honor to have you on our platform. And we look forward to meeting you soon in person, probably in Coimbatore sometime, and have a program with you for our audience. And
Yeah, so if I just may put in one last word, all of this is practical. Yeah, it's not
yes.
just something to read and forget, right? Like when we talked about tapas, it is practical, right? We have to really
Yes.
apply it. And what I want to talk about yoga also is yoga is not just an hour of class that we do once a week or every day, 1 hour I do yoga. It's not. Yeah, it's a 24-hour awareness. Yeah, that
Self-awareness of mind,
correct.
body.
Correct. That awareness of how we act, how we react, what are our thoughts, right? Is it Satya? Is it Ahimsa? Is it, Asteya? So it is that awareness. That is what I want for people to understand. It is not a class we do once a week or once a day even. Yeah, it is a moment to moment awareness of ourselves. Yeah, and awareness is the mother of transformation. Without awareness, transformation is not possible. So
Very
if we
good.
want to transform, which is what all our lives are about, right? All our lives are achieving our highest potential, for which we have to transform, right? And that awareness is the key.
Fantastic, fantastic.
Yeah, and also there are practical exercises at the end of each chapter. Yeah, which
Yes,
again is something so that people are not just left with information. There's actually something they can do about
yes,
it.
it
Yeah,
is.
pranayama has all the major pranayama, most important pranayamas are all listed there, how to do it.
It's a practical exercise which has been
Correct.
given at the end of every chapter.
Has practical exercises.
Yes.
Right? So you can get started on your journey right away from reading the first chapter. In the end, in dhyana, there are beautiful meditation practices that have been given. So I have really tried to share whatever knowledge I have shared in the book. Yeah, so that's why books are so precious, because I think authors really give their all in their
100%. 100%.
take advantage of that and at least just give yoga.
We all should start practicing it.
Yeah. like they say, you know, words are very easy, right? An ounce of practice is worth so many words. So practice, ultimately, we have to practice it.
True.
Okay, thank you so much, Jagannathanji, for this.
Honored, Akka. Honored to have you
As
and
you know,
look forward to meeting you soon.
yeah, I'm always happy, very grateful to the Verana Club as well.
Thank you, Akka. Thank you. Thank you.
So much.
Have a pleasant evening.